Welcome back, Red Spotters. I'm Alexis Soto, your host here, as always, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez, the show that brings you all of the latest stories coming out of the world of movies and more. Today, we've got some big stuff heading your way with a review. We've been teasing this for weeks, and now we finally have it, a full in-depth review of the breakout, smash hit Netflix animated series based off the video game, I guess it's a video game, I don't know, League of Legends, called Arcane. Peter's been talking about it for some weeks, and what do you know, I finally caught around to seeing it, and that's going to be the main thing that we have today, as well as, of course, some other topics, as, you know, our Spider-Man tickets. I guess Charlie Cox is in the news for no reason whatsoever. And, of course...
There's a reason.
I don't think there really is a reason. I mean, personally, we all knew this was happening, but we have to make a big show of it, don't we? But, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. And then, of course, whatever we saw this week. There's a bunch of things that I saw. I don't know about Peter. But that's our show today. All right, so, real quick. We are going to do our best as a team. Now, I don't know what a team even means, what it looks like. All I have is Peter at this point, but he's very devoted to watching as many movies as he can as possible. But again, this is the final month of 2021, and there are a lot of movies that are being thrown in our direction this month. And there is just, and I'm going to say this right now, there is no way we're going to be able to do reviews on all of them. I will try my best to see all of them, and so will Peter, but of course, there is no guarantee. But there will be some that we definitely will catch, and that is Steven Spielberg's much-anticipated West Side Story, and then Spider-Man No Way Home, which is apparently the event of the pandemic. So, we'll definitely have that. And then...
Starring Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Yes.
As seen in the hit Marvel Netflix show, Daredevil.
It's a very good show. And very popular. And maybe we'll even get The Matrix. Well, who knows? That's also happening at the end of the month. It's crazy how
Can I be honest with you?
What?
That's the movie I'm most excited to see.
Is that for sure? Really? Really?
Yes.
Well, you know what? Maybe, look, you perhaps, I have...
Oh, yeah, I'm only speaking for myself.
Okay, I couldn't care less, quite frankly. I mean, at this point, I still need to see those movies. I haven't seen them at all, so I can't have any kind of connection. Therefore, there will be no excitement for it until maybe I see the movies and I have to like them at that, and we'll see how that goes. Because, of course, the latter two of that trilogy are very controversial, or, you know, they're highly debated, shall we say. What am I looking forward to the most? The Steven Spielberg movie, because I'm a Steven Spielberg bitch, and anytime he has a movie out, I will be the first one there.
You can just drop the Steven Spielberg part.
I'm a petty bitch as well, as we'll get into later on in a bit in this episode. Yeah. But no, that's the one, and if you're going to start off there, I was honestly caught by surprise, the reaction to the movie when it was screened for critics. Only because, and you saw in a lot of the reactions that I shared with you, and it's fair that for the longest period of time when this was first announced, why the fuckers are they remaking West Side Story of all things? And what is Spielberg doing with his career? What is all this? What is all that? To my surprise, that narrative was not just confined to this podcast. It seemingly was very widespread. And so the film was screened, and evidently people had major orgasms because there has been nothing but praise for this film. In fact, the most shocking thing, and I promise you I will get this framed for you so you can put this or not put this on your wall, but the most shocking thing that I've seen is the beloved Patrick Willems, who apparently speaks for everything film, when he called West Side Story by Steven Spielberg a far more, a better visual and cinematic experience than Dune. Hey, that's the curveball of the year for me.
He's a musical bitch, okay? It does not surprise me.
And I forgot, you hate music, okay? That's right, even though you gave Encanto...
That's not true.
I know, you gave Encanto a positive review.
So far, I'm the one that actually likes musicals this year.
Yeah, there have been some other ones that we have yet to discuss. West Side Story notwithstanding. So I was surprised, and that really has gotten me excited to see That Spielberg movie, finally, West Side Story, and see how it is. And yeah, it's crazy how everybody was pitting up that movie against In the Heights, and In the Heights is like nowhere. No one's talking about it. Bombed.
That's what they get for having white Latinos. Those racist fucks.
So I had quite a bit of things to see this week. I'm going to give you time to see if you have anything. But for me, I basically had nothing to do but to watch things, since I mentioned in the previous podcast that I had emergency surgery to get my appendix out of my body because, well, you know, these things happen apparently. And
Oh, God. Really?
did you not know this?
No.
You're lying, right?
No.
No wonder you didn't respond to the message. Okay. Because I left the message for everybody on the group chat. I guess.
You leave a lot of things.
I
don't
know, but this was a really personal. Okay, well, I said in the last podcast with David, which I recorded the day after the surgery, not even a full 24 hours after the surgery. This was late. This was last Wednesday. I was all day at work. And it was debilitating for me to be able to do anything. It was painful just to sit down, and it was getting to the point the pain was worsening by the end of the day. I was having a difficult time walking. I was basically like an old man hunched over. So I didn't know what this was at first. I thought it was like a relapse of my gastritis, but it ended up being something far more severe because I couldn't really move all that much. So I went to my doctor. They gave me an examination. They put their hands on my belly, and then the lower right side like was searing pain as if something with like a knife stab basically. And that's what it was. So I was transferred over to the hospital. They did a final scan, and then it needs to come out. And so a couple hours later, at 8:00 last Wednesday, they I think took a little less than 40 minutes to get that thing in and out. And yeah, they took it.
Were you awake? They put you under, right?
Hell no, I was not awake. I would never agree to be awake. No. They tell me that's how long the procedure was, but no way would I be awake for that. No, they definitely put you under. And I was released at 11 that night. So they do things where you don't even have to stay overnight now for appendicitis. So, yeah.
Well, with COVID, they cannot wait to kick you out of
basically, maybe that's what it is. So I guess I have to thank COVID for that. But I mean, I didn't want to stay there anyway. So for the last couple of days, I've been recovering, and I feel so much better now than I did even the day after that operation when I did the Hawkeye review. You may have, if you hear the recording, my voice was very frail.
You're dying?
Well, I was dying. That was me trying to come back to life. So, yeah. I maybe need to just send less messages then if you're just at the point where you're tuning out, because that was a pretty important one, and Kyle and Julio both responded to it, and I was wondering why you didn't. So I guess that's why. I mean, you respond to Kyle's, his anxiety attack, but apparently my emergency surgery doesn't mean anything.
His anxiety attack? Okay. Wait, they're very short.
Okay.
He'll literally just send a line like, "I want to die," and it's like, okay, I can read that. And if he sent a paragraph, I might not read it. So he's damn lucky. He sends one sentence about how he feels. Yeah. I mean, I hope this is a wake up call about your alcoholism.
Yeah, sure.
Wow. So like.
So like what? What's the question?
Do you get to keep it?
No. That's such a weird question. Who wants to keep a fucking organ around?
Do you know how fucking you could get like a jar and then it's like
the thing was about to explode in my body. That's why I had to take it out.
But why does that happen? Why does it like...
It has a lot to do with your diet.
Organ just randomly turn suicide bomber?
With this particular organ, it has a lot to do with diet. And with me, I had been ingesting a lot of spicy foods literally in the days leading up to all of this. Spicy foods mixed in with fatty foods. That's the perfect combination. It can strike literally at any moment.
So, like, do you have to change your diet now?
No.
It's just... Wait, so what the fuck is the point of an appendix? Like, does anything change?
There's no point.
Huh.
I mean, there is a point, but it's like you don't need it to live.
But, like, you don't have to change your... Huh.
We change nothing.
Weird. Is it like tonsils?
Yeah. Or they're there. They don't serve much of a purpose, but they're there. And I had those removed as well.
Great. You did?
Yeah. Yeah, when I was I think
shit.
5 years old, I think. Yeah.
You're just falling apart.
Please. Here I am.
Bitch, I lived. See, if you had sent that, I would be like, okay. What did you live from? See, now I'm worried. One day you're gonna die, and I'm just gonna miss it.
Well, I don't know what to say to that.
With peace and love.
Well, I mean, there'll be a funeral, I imagine.
But will I be invited?
Why wouldn't you be invited?
I don't know.
Unless
maybe you're afraid I'd like piss on your grave or something.
What would I care? I'd be dead.
So I can do that?
It's of no consequence to me.
Okay. I'll talk it over with Kyle.
Okay.
But I'm glad you are currently
alive.
That's
still probably like 80 years down the line, so.
Hey, you really think you got 80?
It's an approximate. Nobody knows, okay? And let's not get into that conversation because then my mind will literally begin to unravel before our very eyes. So let's not even entertain that kind of discussion. Now let's backtrack to what we saw this week. I do want to get maybe we could actually pin this back in your direction. As we mentioned the Hawkeye episode, David and I are doing those again, the recaps of the Marvel shows on Disney Plus. Yeah. So what do you think of this show? I will say real quick for me, it doesn't have, not that I think I went out of my, well, that's not true. I did go out of my way with the previous shows to at least catch the episode again. With this particular show, I don't necessarily feel the need to bother to do a rewatch with these episodes. They're pretty much very straightforward. And when I mean the previous shows, I mean the 3 Disney Plus live action series before Hawkeye.
I think that I think you can maybe make the case for a couple of other of the like, let's say maybe Loki or Winter Soldier, where it's like you could have just made this a 2-hour, feature and put it in theaters, right? Like you can maybe make that argument with those. But there's stuff in there I would like to keep. Whereas here with this one, I'm like, this really could have just been a feature. Like it could have come out in movie theaters. You could shorten it. I really feel like you could have shortened this to like 2:20, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Because a lot of it, it's like, I get it. Right?
There's not much story.
Yeah, like, but it's like, it didn't. I don't think it needs to be 6 hours.
It's not 6 hours. That's a lie. No Marvel show on Disney Plus has ever been 6 hours.
It doesn't need to be 5 hours.
It hasn't even been that. That's a marketing thing. People, I know we had this whole thing.
When it's said and done, won't it be?
That's what they say, but I mean, look, the average runtime of all of the previous shows was less than 40 minutes, which is, by the way, less than the average episode of television. The average would be 42 minutes of TV 1-hour shows. A lot of the shows have been like between 35 to 40 minutes.
So it would at least hit 4 hours, right?
Possibly. Some of them quite easily.
This doesn't need to be 4 hours. It doesn't need to be 4 to 6 hours. Let's cover all the bases. Because everything with, let's say, Kate Bishop, I honestly feel like I got it. Like 10 minutes. 10 minutes with her in the beginning, I got it, right? The little intro in the very beginning with Clint Barton and his family, I got it, right? And everything else has sort of been, not that it's buying time, but it's like it's trying to build things, but it's doing it too slow. Like all of this that you're trying to build in the course of like I feel what's taking 30 minutes could take 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Tracksuit Mafia, got it. She gets into Kate Bishop fucks up and gets herself into trouble. Clint Barton got to step in and try to help her out. I got it. You know, so far there's only been like one action-y scene that's like, oh, fun. And that's like the car chase scene.
Right.
Like that's if I got it. Like I feel like the first 3 episodes you could 100% shorten that shit to like 40 minutes. I really think you can.
And we've been running into that issue as well. If you've seen, our last review, or last episode, Hawkeye's Echoes, the discussion of the episode, it was an hour and 30-minute podcast, but we only talked about the episode for 30 minutes of that. Whereas when it came to any of the previous shows, an hour tops, easy. Not tops, but an hour easy of discussion. Yeah. Here, it's like there's not much to say besides what's there.
Yeah, because so far it's, again, I don't know the exact amount of time, maybe 2 hours so far. 2 hours of information and 3 episodes, again, could be told in 40 minutes tops. So then when it comes to dissecting it up into 3 parts and talking about it, it's like not much to say individually. Like if you binge it, like, okay, maybe there'll be a lot to say, but going like week to week, I don't know. I don't hate the show. I don't want that to come off that way.
No,
I think it's good. I think it's definitely good.
It's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, but it is that thing where it's like, okay, Marvel, like, step it up. Step it up. Like, because, like, visually, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Story-wise, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So much of the show it's fine. It's competent. But then, like, I'll think back to the comic that it's based on, and it's like the comic itself took much more risks and had much more fun visually and
as per usual
storytelling and with the characters. Like, and they may end up doing this in an episode. There's still 3 episodes left, right?
Yeah, amazingly.
There's and it's a really cool part of the comic where I think I saw the what's it called? Corey and them.
Double toasted.
Double toasted. I think they brought this up. There's a section of the comic where he loses his hearing aid.
Yeah.
And the whole comic is just visuals because he can't hear anything, and he's trying to get around town and that could have been
a cool episode.
And yeah, and he's just like visually trying to sign. And it's funny because at the time that the comic came out, and the creators were like, if you're having difficulty understanding this comic, imagine how hard it is for people that have hearing issues living in this world, right? That's not built around that. If you're having difficulty, maybe you just got a little taste of what's that like. And a lot of it is sort of like interpreting what's going on. And there's a lot of like sign. And if you kind of work, you can figure it out. But if you had a episode like that where it's like basically silent and it's Clint going around just trying to figure shit out with his hearing, I'd be like, oh shit, like that's cool. Like you're going for something different. But again, that might be that's not commercial, right? Like kids just staring at a screen without sound, they're gonna get bored, they're gonna walk away. Disney Plus stock plummets 5,000 points, and then you can't do it, I guess. I'm enjoying it. It's fun, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. Maybe if they had shortened it and just visually done something, just make it more interesting, man. Like I really don't want to be that guy. I guess I am that guy, so fuck it. But there was a man once known by the name of Sam Raimi. And
I don't even know why you feel like you want to be that guy. You've been that guy.
I know I am that
all
guy.
the time. All the time. Every time since you've been introduced on this show.
I guess my thing is like film is such a fucking visual medium.
Yeah.
Like take advantage of it. And with his Spider-Man films, feels like every shot, every conversation, every transition of scene, it's just like visually it was going for it. You know what I mean? Every fucking time. And since I'm already that guy, I'm gonna take it further. Rian Johnson, he's another director that I think does the same thing visually. He always goes for it. The way the camera pans and moves and turns. Not even in his more commercial work like The Last Jedi, but even look at something like Knives Out, where a lot of it is just people talking, but the way the camera moves, it's fucking enchanting. And I'm not saying the show needs to be as good as, visually those what I consider to be works of art. But I don't know, I just want to see attempts of doing interesting stuff. I'll give it to them. They did have that cool, again, that's why it sticks out in my head, the chase scene.
Yeah. They
tried to do a oneer, and then they had the camera all like up close on them. I was like, oh, neat. I give complete kudos. I'd like to see more of that. Although what's also funny about that too, that chasing is in the comics. Hawkeye uses trick arrows, but he's never used trick arrows in the MCU
until now.
So then all of a sudden they're like, "Whoa, trick arrow!" Because that whole gag, that whole chasing is like lifted almost one for one from the comic. And there was that same gag where he like has a shit ton of trick arrows, but he didn't properly name them, so he's handing them to Kate Bishop, and she's like, "What fucking arrow is this? Like, you got to properly title these." And she's just throwing like random trick arrow after random trick arrow. It's funny because they wanted to keep that same concept, but he's never used trick arrows before. So when she's like, "Oh my god, you have trick arrows," I felt the same as her. I was like, "Yeah, when the fuck did you get trick arrows?" It's never been a part of the MCU, but I mean, I'm enjoying it. But it's not great because especially I now when I say this, I'm definitely not this guy. I feel like what's keeping me attached to this show is a cameo that I want to see.
You're probably not alone in that. And it's pretty, I feel, evident that it's kind of been leaked, quote unquote.
Has it been leaked?
No. It's been
from the Disney Plus TV screen.
Well, I think the people behind the show are trying to bring awareness to a certain cameo, or certain characters are going to be brought in to bring more excitement to this, because I think they know there's not much excitement going on here. It's interesting. I feel like this almost feels like what a Marvel show we would have got under the Jeff Loeb era on Netflix.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Mean it's a little too bright.
Is it? Well, yeah, because his shows are in nighttime. I think you meant like bright as in, it's the same MCU cinematography. Okay, it's gray, but like I guess
it's in the daytime.
Okay, sure. I'm not sure how much more. Okay, fine. Somewhat better effects. Pretty better effects actually. Although still some pretty obvious. It's a TV show, and so I guess for me, I'm far more lenient with like TV production. But again, this whole idea that Marvel said they were going to spend $25 million an episode per show. There's all the evidence you can see that that's not true. You don't spend $25 million on any episode of Hawkeye.
Did 24 million of it go to the
Jeremy
opening
Renner?
scene of the first episode. Oh no, just to get Jeremy Renner back. It's also funny because he has such an angry grandpa demeanor.
Yeah.
Which is like the exact opposite of the Hawkeye character in the comic. Like, it's very different, the character.
This iteration of Hawkeye, from what you tell me, has never really gelled with what he's been in the comics.
Never.
You know, probably because, look, all Jeremy Renner could ever do with this character was imbue his own personality onto it. That's all he's ever been allowed to do.
That's true. And I think this is kind of in line with Jeremy Renner's more quiet persona.
Which I like, though. I do like him, even though he's often been, you know, a side character. The movies have never done anything with him at all. But I like seeing more of him. I like that actor. I like that character. And I like the dynamic he has with Kate Bishop. It's fun.
Yeah. I really like the stuff in the beginning with his kids where he's just like, I just want to eat my lunch.
Yeah.
I don't even want you to pay for my tab. Just don't look at me.
No offense, but get fucked.
Yeah, and you could tell he's trying real hard to be like nice and cool, like yeah, okay.
Shut up and go away, please.
Yeah, but he's just like I mean, I was fucking dying when during that Hawkeye play. No, I mean like Avengers play. Holy shit. I hated that.
It was awful.
I was gonna say the only thing that saved it was that I think you're supposed to feel like Clint in that situation.
Yeah,
where he's just like,
yes, that was
kill me. Yeah,
that was very much intentional, and I didn't even catch it, but I guess that number in Rogers the Musical, the last line is "I can do this all day." I didn't catch it the first time. Yeah, that was something. I think what killed me was his reaction to seeing Thanos was right on a urinal. That was.
Wasn't he just like,
I just thought it was hilarious because like he saved the world, and then that's a good thank you. Anyway,
it's realistic.
Yeah, it is though. That's the truth.
And also, like, it's always weird. It's not that weird, but it's a little weird how like the world knows every intimate detail.
I've been saying this all year. I've been saying this all fucking year. It's very much weird ever since like, you know, at first you could say that it was explained with Monica, you know, because she's with S.W.O.R.D. and I guess she would have footage, but I don't know. I don't remember there being drones recording the battle for at Avengers Endgame. So yeah, it's always been weird that people like I guess know everything about.
And it's always accurate, right?
Way too accurate. Like if they were there, like it often feels firsthand, but you weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
So
it feels like, oh yeah, I saw the movie too. I guess that's the way it comes off. Like the people within that world, like, oh yeah, I saw the movie.
I did see this tweet out there in Far From Home when Peter was on the airplane. There was a whole bunch of documentaries. So I'm sure like there's a whole bunch of documentaries have been made about, you know, the blip or the snap or whatever. And so maybe that's how they know about it. But the way that the characters describe it in such detail, no documentary is ever that accurate.
I was going to say there's been very public occurrences that takes the nation by storm. And there's hundreds of documentaries about it. And even now, there's still like, it's like World War II docs, right? Like we have endless footage and this and that, but like we don't have intimate details. There's just this idea of like, oh, like if they just came up to him like you were there, right? Like you fought at the battle of such and such, right? Like is it true that fucking I don't like this and this happened, you know? And it's somewhat accurate, but not really. Like, that's usually how history is. Mm-hmm. But again, here it feels like, again, they saw the movie. I kind of don't like it. It takes me out of it.
It does, every time. Yeah. Like, without fail. But I guess they've decided they're going to do this. So it's going to keep happening. But then again,
See?
that means that it matters, though, because when you tie it back into the movies, that means you're cool and everything, because you're also with this universe. So you also are in this club. So, you know.
But why doesn't Peter Parker have that luck? Why isn't everyone like, oh yeah, like I saw Far From Home. I know he's innocent.
Oh yeah. Oops.
Why does everyone act like they don't know what happened? I thought just the whole world just has an intimate detail and knows everything that goes on in these films.
Yeah, so we're going to see Wilson Fisk. I would imagine before we see Matt Murdock back in No Way Home. And I cannot imagine it was an accident that their reappearances, or I should say their debut into the MCU.
Reemergence?
Their debut in the MCU are coinciding literally, I guess, weeks apart or around the same time, both in theaters and on Disney+. Kevin Feige has obviously been doing the rounds with all of this press for No Way Home. And he was asked about Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and he said that if we were to see, which we've already confirmed all year long, that we are going to see Daredevil back in No Way Home. He said if we were to see Daredevil, it's going to be Charlie Cox that'll be playing it. Then, of course, you have the headline everywhere. Kevin Feige confirms Daredevil is back in the MCU, or Daredevil is canon and everything. Which that will be the case as far as the character is concerned. You are going to see him again. But again, that's a literal twisting of what he actually said. But we also know what was implied in those comments, because literally less than 2 weeks, you're going to be seeing that happen before our very eyes.
I think that's why he's become very listen, guys, sure,
just leave me alone.
I think in his mind he's just wait 2 fucking weeks, you hounds.
There've been leaked images. You know it's gonna happen. Why are you still asking me? Why are you still bothering me with this crap?
I'm sure that's how Andrew Garfield feels.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield's kind of
me alone.
How about you watch my new movie, Tick, Tick, Boom? How about you support me for Best Actor at the Oscars? But instead I gotta be asked about are you gonna be in No Way Home? Yes, the soundtrack leaked. We all know you're gonna be in No Way Home. We've known you were gonna be that movie for the longest period of time. We know that. Wait,
is that annoying thing?
God, go ahead.
Is that that annoying thing when I know something, you know something, but one of us is just yeah, but I want to hear you say it. I need to hear it come out of your mouth, but it's why? You know for a fact that this thing is going to happen. Yeah, but say it. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I guess that's just the life of being an entertainment reporter. You're just going to ask the same questions again and again. And then also ask, decorated filmmakers their opinions on Marvel movies.
Yep.
That's the other thing.
Steven Spielberg hasn't been hit with that one.
Are we recently? Sure he hasn't? Well, if he hasn't, I'm sure he will. I mean, it's coming up.
I know he said before that he liked Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but he never said anything derogatory necessarily about Marvel movies. He just said he liked Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if people feel inclined to ask Spielberg because much of his filmography could be considered mainstream blockbusters. Not of this day and age, but of, I guess, the genre period.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't feel as inclined to ask him since he himself has made a lot of those films, far more than a lot of other filmmakers. Then again, there's also Ridley Scott, and he's made some blockbusters as well. Maybe not necessarily your stereotypical blockbusters, but he's made some films that are, very much four quadrant for one or the other. Anyway, Charlie Cox, we've said it all year long. He is going to be back in the MCU. He's going to be also in She-Hulk, in Echo, and then in his own show whenever that resumes production. In 2024, I believe, or 2025, whichever comes first. And I guess for me is, and you and I seem to have gotten into this at least recently tonight in an exchange we had in our chat, which was about what that would necessarily mean for the Daredevil TV series. And I feel like maybe I do hear what you're saying. The MCU whatever that means. But Kevin Feige himself has allowed for things to have been retconned. He's changed things. Mistakes have appeared on screen.
Yeah.
And I guess my rebuttal to that off the bat was I wasn't saying that any little mistake means this or that there.
I mean, I can read your words if you want.
I mean, I could read the entire conversation over if that's what you feel like you need.
No, I just need keywords.
Keyword. Well, I mean, we should probably give background on this. So just my particular feeling on this is just because you're going to have Charlie Cox and you're going to have Vincent D'Onofrio in the MCU as the characters they played on the Daredevil series on Netflix, at the moment, if we are under the impression that they're going to address the events that happen in their shows with a fine-tooth comb, and that is they'll give you a wink and a nod, but they're not going to outright say that, oh yeah, this happened and that happened and this here and that there. We're just going to laugh it off as a joke. But really what's behind all of that is what you said all the time, Peter, and that is Kevin Feige, even if he likes you, doesn't like to play in other people's work and sandbox. Yeah. Even though he may be a big fan of the Daredevil TV series on Netflix, he himself, while he wants to borrow some of their toys, in this case, the actual actors from that show, the fact that we're going to give you a wink and a nod to that show, in my view, feels as if he's unwilling to just go ahead and loop in all of the events that happen in that series into his Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel the point you're trying to make is, well, it's inferred and it's implied that this origin that we saw happened more or less the same way. And I see that point. My point is, sure, but that's not the exact same version of events. And if it's not and I have been told this repeatedly for years now, if it's not the exact same version of events...
I don't know who's told you that.
I'm not saying you.
Okay.
I'm not saying you. Okay. When I say I have been told, I've seen this for years and years and years. If, as Daredevil had, many big events happen on his show, quite frankly, him being in New York City, and there was kind of, this underground, dragon skeleton there that, this ninja organization was trying to excavate out, and all of New York would fall in. Those are big moments in that show. Now, if you are going to say that moment, which was key to that series and that version of Daredevil, didn't at all happen in this version of Daredevil that's not going to be in the MCU, how can you at the same time then look at that show and say to me that happened when you're saying it didn't happen? So how is that canon? It cannot be canon if you're saying that these major things didn't actually occur. So and do not misunderstand. If you sense any kind of ire in my tone of voice, it is not directed at you. It is directed at the canon Nazis, because they can't even...
The canon Nazis.
Because, no, it's the truth here. And you and I are on the same page when it comes to people who value canon and are high and mighty about it, and they live it by their code as if it was the Bible or whatever. At least it was their Bible. And that often is kind of gross because that's all they view these things as versus storytelling devices.
Yes,
but the point to this particular issue is they can't even remain consistent with what they say or what they accept to be canon. And my point to that is that proves canon, or what anybody tries to tell you is canon, is bullshit. And anybody's headcanon is their personal thing. Because when we can't even get the same rules straight, if we're picking and choosing, what counts and what doesn't count, you very much reveal your hand. And so I am not going, but seriously, you may be finding this entertaining or amusing anyway, but I'm being real when I say, okay, if I'm going to take these particular rules, quote unquote, that I have heard people say, what counts, and if it's mentioned or if it's a big thing in the universe, okay, I'm taking that into play here, and I'm evaluating the events that happened in that show. Just because you loop in an actor that played the same character in that show does not mean that what came before actually exists in this MCU. So my point, therefore, becomes congratulations to everybody who is very much happy to see, Charlie Cox back and Vincent D'Onofrio, but there should be
the Netflix show's canon.
And obviously it is implied, based on how Feige himself is so resistant to loop in everything else, by that metric, that means that show is not qualified as your precious canon.
Okay, well, first of all, you keep talking about other people. I laid out my criteria for how I would consider it to be,
and I was not talking about you.
Very clear.
Sure. I was not talking about you.
So then, argue with them, because
I was.
I have. Okay.
I wasn't arguing with you. I was arguing with this vapid ghost that I always yell at, and I'm hit it like
old
a pinata.
Man yells at cloud.
Yes. Well, it's not a cloud, because it's literally what you see all over film Twitter and all over these MCU stands, and they have said repeatedly throughout all of these years about what Matt.
Film Twitter.
Okay, you've ignored me, so go ahead and continue on with your comments. You can now reclaim your time.
I'm
not fighting with you. Although I guess we can't.
You are.
How am I fighting with you?
Okay, well, I'll fight with you.
Okay, fine. Ever the contrarian.
Yeah, I have to be. You want to... Well, first of all, this idea of you keep saying they're going to say that it's not canon. They're never going to say, at least I don't believe, within any...
No, they're never going to do that. No.
MCU comment that this is not canon.
No, they're never going to do that.
Ever going to make that.
I was saying that was the effect. By extension, let me be clear.
No. Let me be clear.
No, well, let me be clear. I wasn't saying that at one point or another somebody was going to say, if this didn't... Did you just Obama me?
Yes, I did.
Wow. You did it. You stopped me in my tracks. Continue, man.
It worked. Yeah. I can't believe it worked. Here's a really good example. The Incredible Hulk. It is MCU canon.
Yeah.
It is.
That's never been disputed.
Never referenced.
Right.
Never. And it even has a different lead actor.
Uh-huh.
But
you know what else is never referenced?
It's canon.
But then that's not canon.
And they have a specific character,
right,
that moved from that film,
yes,
to other
General
MCU
Ross
projects. Yes, General Ross.
Well, technically two characters, but we don't talk about Edward Norton.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's a completely different actor. You could argue a completely different character because he plays it very different.
They're not the same at all.
They're not. They're really not the same. But it's considered MCU proper.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't know why though, because it has the name Marvel Studios on it.
No, it doesn't. It's
Marvel Studios, The Incredible Hulk. Marvel Studios produced that film and released it in concurrent with Universal.
In concurrent with Universal.
Yes. But Marvel Studios produced that film. And so therefore, anything that is a Marvel Studios production with that name on it is, by just default, considered canon, from what I understand. Everybody accepts that.
So now you've accepted the list argument then of Kyle Lira. Of if it's got the MCU,
I accept that that's where we start, but I don't say that that's where it ends. I can accept that that's where it starts, but it doesn't end. If it has the Marvel Studios logo, I'm not saying if it only has that. I'm saying that's where it starts.
To being Kyle Lira right now.
What?
Huh?
What about Kyle Lira?
If it has a Marvel Studios
By the way, has
logo,
he called you up about the Encanto review? Because I was
never gonna do it.
I was really looking forward to that. What's going on there? I thought the Fantasy Fair is gonna have this big review of Encanto. Alexis even nominated you as tribute to take her place and talk about it with him. And I haven't heard a peep. And by the way, it's been over 2 weeks now since we've seen the movie.
You know how this works. He's never gonna do it.
And why won't he do it?
Because that would entail him to have an uncomfortable conversation.
Oh.
Yeah. So now that we're past your pivot,
Uh-huh.
let's talk about this. That film has the same
That wasn't a
structural
pivot. That was
issues.
intentional for me to actually drag Kyle, in case anybody was wondering. That wasn't
I'm okay.
that wasn't a pivot away. That was just a little bit of an aside. But please continue on. Just because somebody, introduces other elements into the discussion does not necessarily mean that it's a pivot. I mean, I could definitely accuse you of doing that. You pivoted the entire debate over Letterboxd. Literally, all of it was just you running away from the proof that I had, and it was hilarious how you were just completely caught off guard. You even went so far as to say that I was like gotcha journalism when I had like an actual statement from Letterboxd.
Gotcha journalism.
And anybody that listened to that discussion understood that you were evading all of my questions. Okay. You weren't even taking it seriously.
I think my performance speaks for itself.
I think that was all that.
People can go
just
back
that.
and
it was a
listen to
performance. It was definitely a performance. But I'm not sure it was a debate.
Every discussion recorded is a performance, okay? Ask the FBI. So, when it comes to Daredevil, I can almost guarantee you oh my god, like, fuck. I almost want to bet money because I can guarantee you're going to get a scene like this. At some point in the near future, you're going to have Daredevil with the rest of the new Marvel fucking heroes, and they're going to be facing off against the new 10 Rings, and then Daredevil's going to say something like, ninjas. I have a history with ninjas, or some fucking quip like that. Like he's like, oh, I something just thrown out there, like, yeah, ninjas can get annoying, or I don't know, some stupid shit Marvel quip. And then everyone's going to be like, oh, this is actually in reference. All the fucking YouTube reference channels.
There's going to be so many videos
circles. Yeah. And they're going to be like, this is actually in reference to the Daredevil Netflix TV series in which he faced off against the Hand. That's what it's going to. We're going to get shit like, he's never going to say, I faced off against the Hand. And and just say specific events entirely, but he's gonna reference past things, and as far as I'm concerned, if your criteria is that they literally come out and say, I am Daredevil from the hit Netflix series Daredevil, in which this event happened, this event happened, this event happened, this happened, and it is now officially canon. If you literally want Charlie Cox to turn to the screen and say that, you're not going to get it. And I think it's a ridiculous standard for canon. But the fact that we're going to get...
But that's a standard many people have.
I don't believe that.
If anything happens in this Daredevil moving forward that goes against or contradicts the story elements that happen in that show, and I'm not talking to you here, I am talking to the canon Nazis. Yes, I agree with you. That is ridiculous, that is the standard that they have set.
That's the thing, though. When we had that discussion, you did not say, oh, some people out there have set the standard. You made it seem like that was your standard.
If I did, I apologize for that. That's not what I'm saying.
No. Okay, so if that's not your standard, then would you personally, not what anyone else would say,
I'm on board with you.
Personally, I'm on board with you. Daredevil canon?
Would I personally consider it canon? If, let's say, that what you said just happened there, like we see a scene where it's like, oh, ninjas, it's a nod and a wink. Would I personally? Yeah, because I already consider it canon. So, of course, nothing would change for me.
Okay. I don't know why you came at me.
I'm not... Because you came at me saying that I was crazy for saying all these things as if I believed them when I was only bringing attention to the... Dad, I think we got ourselves confused here. I was merely bringing awareness to the hypocrisy amongst many idiotic people in the fandom of what they consider their criteria to be canon. And what I have been reading for years and years and years is, if something happens in the MCU that directly contradicts a major event that happened in that previous show, They have been saying, because they do this every single time with you know what. Every single time it happens when an event.
We're not allowed to say that name anymore.
We can't. We'll say Voldemort. I think that's the safe.
Voldemort.
That's the word that I call this. Voldemort. By the way, Voldemort is trending right now apparently on Twitter. You won't see Grace Randolph mention that, but it's trending. Anyway, if I have hard feelings, clearly I do. It is because of that. When Voldemort had a major event that seemingly was like, because the movies didn't reference a major event that happened in this Voldemort series, that means this Voldemort series is not canon. I have been literally hearing those things for years and years and years and years, and now that standard apparently is not going to apply to Daredevil. Now we're just going to rely on, it's implied. Therefore, that's enough for them to reel all of that in.
Do you know why, though?
Because Daredevil is a costume freak. It was a very popular show in America.
You think blind people are freaks?
He is a comic book character with a history. I did not at all imply or mean to suggest that blind people were freaks. Do not put words in my mouth. I was speaking to the favoritism, the clear favoritism Daredevil has over Voldemort.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. I
think, which part?
All of it. Because these people that you're angry at, this cloud, if you will.
You reference them yourselves, the YouTube people that have all of these Marvel, tie-in videos.
Being fucking annoying.
And I agree with you.
Okay. Let's bring it down. You're at a 9. Let's take it to a 6. Okay?
I don't think I'm at a 9. I can get to a 9 if you test me.
8.5.
Sure,
okay. What I'm saying is, a lot of these people, I guarantee you, did not consider Daredevil or any other Netflix show canon until they announced that Charlie Cox himself will be playing Daredevil in the MCU, and Vincent D'Onofrio. This is also a really big piece to it. It's not just one actor, it's multiple. Vincent D'Onofrio himself is going to be Kingpin in the MCU. This is why those annoying people, which I agreed with you, they're annoying, but this is why it's different to them than when it comes to, what do we call that show? Voldemort. That's why I told you, these same people, I guarantee you, would turn around and consider said show canon if certain characters popped back. I don't
buy that.
Yes, they would.
People want to keep that show down, man. They want to keep it. They want to put it. They want to keep that stake in its heart there. It's hard for me to see the same people that have been raving about Daredevil coming back even mention, if anything, be somewhat happy about Voldemort being revived into the MCU. I bet you that happens. A lot of these people, you know what, you're right. They are going to turn face and they are going to consider it. Most will. Some, very annoyingly, and I could put money down on this. I won't, but I could. Will be very annoying and say, no, I don't care what they say. I don't include this quote unquote shite in the MCU. There will be pushback.
Sure. This is the thing. There will be a lot of pushback, a lot of blowback. A lot of people won't like it, but they'll accept it. They'll accept that it is canon. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
100%.
But what I am saying is, well, I think I've already said what I said. Anyway.
Okay.
I feel like we should probably leave it there before we... All right. Spider-Man. Tickets. We got tickets. There's so many trailers. There's so many leaks. They leaked. The soundtrack leaked. I don't know, man. I kind of don't care at this point. I'm going to watch it.
As far as the tickets go, I mean, people fucking love Spider-Man, right? Like,
yeah, apparently.
The level of love for Spider-Man is fucking insane. It's equal to the Batman love that you see over at DC. Like, there's just something about the character that I guess hits with people.
No matter what.
I know, I know it hits with me, even though I'm not crazy about this one. One of the biggest issues I'm having with this film is, one, they wait till the third film to try to make it a Spider-Man film instead of like an MCU extension epilogue.
And they rely on the other Spider-Man trilogy or franchise to make it feel as if it was a Spider-Man story.
To do all the heavy lifting, right? Like,
Yeah.
Why develop interesting villains when you can just steal from the best? It have, I mean, come on, the Doc Ock is selling this film.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
Every trailer is just Doc Ock.
Every poster.
Peter. Every poster. Hello, Peter. Like that's the film, and it's sold. It's sold nearly as good as Endgame. That's the fucking Spider-Man 2 love that I'm talking about. But I guess what bothers me is all of Peter Parker's side characters have been treated like a joke thus far in the MCU. Ned is comic relief. There's nothing more to him, especially in Far From Home. He's literally just there for jokes. MJ, I don't know. Like they never developed it. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But it just, he went from being ambivalent to her to like, oh my God, Mr. Stark, I'm so in love with her. Oh my God, I forgot you're dead, Mr. Stark, but I'm still in love with her. Like that was fucking Far From Home. Like he goes from, oh, there's that annoying girl that's kind of mean to me in science class, to, oh, I'm so in love with this girl. Oh my gosh, right? And I guess the audience accepts it because they said at the end of the last film her name is MJ. I don't accept it because it wasn't developed at all.
Clearly.
The whole thing with Aunt May, and I mean, I think I told you this before. Aunt May's a sex joke.
Yeah.
In the MCU. That's all she is. 90% of her scenes are just like, oh, she's hot, but she's also an aunt. What are the odds? I kind of I accepted that when it happened in like Civil War, but when literally that's all her scenes were in fucking Far From Home, especially when you left on a cliffhanger at Homecoming of like how is she gonna accept him being Spider-Man?
I guess she did.
And I guess she did. I don't know. I have zero insight into their relationship. Like zero. She had one kind of cute scene, like to help him get ready for the dance, but in Homecoming, but that was it. Like there's just nothing to these side characters. And all of a sudden, I feel like big things are gonna happen to these characters.
One of those three is gonna die.
Yeah. I have so much money put on Aunt May.
At this point, yes.
And I'm just,
but that's going to be
so
that's so gross. It just feels gross because there was no development into that character. She's not even a character. She's just there.
She's just there.
She might as well have been furniture.
I mean, if you're going to kill anyone, I mean, fucking kill Happy.
Right?
He's had more intimate discussions and relationship going on than anywhere near Aunt May.
Aunt May has been nowhere to be seen.
Fucking thing. These Iron Man characters come in and take over. Like that discussion about being a hero and shit like that, or being your own hero or whatever, and Far From Home. It shouldn't have been Happy. It should have been Aunt May. And the same goes for so much in these films. So that's where my worry lies, where it's like all of a sudden you're taking these characters seriously, but you did shit all to develop them. So it's like, I feel like things are going to happen in the film where it's like, fuck, if you had developed this, maybe I would care, right? Like, that's what worries me. Two, visual, again, I've talked about this, films are a visual medium, and blockbuster films are literally have every technology at their hands. They cost millions of dollars. There's no reason why they should look like stale bread. There's just none. I don't accept it. And visually, so far, it looks as stale and boring as every other Spider-Man film. Like, it felt weird. A lot of people on Twitter were like putting side-by-side comparisons between this MCU Spider-Man and like the Garfield Spider-Man. And I hated the Garfield Spider-Man, but even I had to admit, like, fuck, those movies look so much better.
Do they?
The MCU, they do. And it just, they look at least like their films. I don't know. Like,
they always looked ugly to me. I don't know about that. Maybe I'll go back and look at them, but I can't even give them that.
I didn't think I felt that way, but then I saw, and I'm like, yeah, no, like this, there's color here. I don't know. So those are like my two biggest issues. Like, visually, it just looks stale and boring as it's always been, and character-wise, it took them till the life-altering fucking Spider-Man Endgame to start giving a shit about the Spider-Man characters in this film. But there are some things where I'm like, I kind of, okay, like I'm kind of into this. Because it's a double-edged sword, because guess what? They finally are giving a shit about the Spider-Man characters in this world. Mm-hmm. I said this before about like the Spider-Man trailer was the first one in the MCU where it felt like they're trying to make a Spider-Man movie and not just like a look how it connects to Endgame and Tony Stark. Do you know that Tony Stark is here? Tony Stark, look at that. That's Tony
you
Stark.
still got Doctor Strange there, and you still got him on all the posters.
Strange. Yes, that's the annoying part. But the trailer, for the most, especially the second trailer, does feel like there's more of an emphasis on this being a Spider-Man movie, and that's why I said, like, it feels like there's more. They're trying to put more emphasis on Spider-Man and his cast and characters. So that is a positive.
Sure, but I think for me, it's just repelled by the fact that it still can't be a singularly Tom Holland Spider-Man story. It still has to be...
Yeah.
He still has to share his own movies with an ensemble, another big name.
But at least the ensemble is Spider-Man.
And Doctor Strange.
And
yes. Daredevil, even though he's only like in one scene,
he's
but
gonna
he's
be
still
there for like a second. But I'm gonna have so much fun turning at you and looking at you when that happens.
Oh, don't worry, I'll walk out when that happens.
I'm gonna scream canon when the second he shows up on screen.
Well, he will be canon, that's for sure. I don't know about his show, but you know.
Well, you know, I guess I'll pull a Alexis Soto and DM Kevin Feige and ask him specifically.
You're more than welcome to do that. Let's call it journalism.
Yeah, I don't. That being said, like, there are aspect like it's like, okay, we're just having fun with this, right? It's basically a Spider-Man bonanza.
Yeah, I guess
we're throwing all the hits into a pot, you know, swirling it up, and then just having fun with it. I can do that. I can have fun with it if that's all we're doing, and even if, you know, there's deeper shit going on, I can go like, hey, even though it wasn't built up that well, at least like this is better. This is an improvement. There's deeper shit going on with this Spider-Man. Awesome. The only like stopgap I got from just going full on like, fuck it, let's just have fun, is that visually it doesn't look that fun. Like if we're gonna have fun with it, go have fun with it, you know. Like,
I mean, look at the centerpiece, which is that third act on, I guess, the Statue of Liberty, or that like,
yeah,
that rail or whatever. Well, not rail, but that's not interesting at all. It's kind of ugly.
Yeah, it's and then also that that fight with Doc Ock, which I feel like we've basically seen all of it through all the clips. It feels like it's the only part of the film we're allowed to see. Again, it's like the what's his name is selling the performance, obviously.
Molina.
Alfred Molina, and there's actually some fun lines where he's like, looks like we have some competition. You know, he turns and talks to his octopus hand when he sees Spider-Man's like his little arms too. Like, it could be fun, but again, visually, it just doesn't have any of that unique flair that you got from the Raimi films. And it doesn't have to look like the Raimi films. I just want it to not look like it was made in a factory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't want it to look like a factory film. And then that it makes it harder to just have fun with it, because it's like, it's kind of boring if it's just whatever. That's why a perfect example of this is Aquaman. Aquaman is a shit film. It's really dumb. But visually, it's so wild.
Oh my god, it is.
And so fun. I'm just like, fuck it, take me. Like I'm watching this, I'm having a blast, right? And that's why I really like Aquaman, because I can have fun with it in that way. And I kind of want to do that with this film, where it's just like, fuck it. It's just we're just throwing Spider-Man at the wall, and all their villains, but it's like, visually, like, do something more. I think I'm rambling at this point, but yeah. But I want to caveat, for whatever reason, I've been fairly positive on films as of late. And you have been hating every single one. So, I think...
but that's highly inaccurate. There are movies I've seen that you haven't seen. But
Tomato.
We'll look at November. Encanto was enjoyable. I didn't necessarily love it. You seem to have liked it a lot. Mm-hmm. You didn't see House of Gucci, so you really can't speak to that.
I cannot, no.
But what were the other ones? Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Hated it, yes.
I didn't care anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, came Eternals.
Yeah, which you hated at first. So, I mean, you'll really know I've gone off the deep end if I come out going like, I liked it, I really liked it, and then you're there just looking at me like, you know, you were meant to destroy the Sith, not join the.
Basically. Because I guarantee you, I probably won't like it. But I think that ship sailed.
You know what? I don't think it's going to be as bad, but it does feel, and you mentioned this too, it feels like the run-up to The Rise of Skywalker.
Very much. Yes.
Where we know what this film is.
Yeah.
And
we combed over all the spoilers.
Yes.
There's major reshoots. Not happening, but there's also major VFX that still aren't finished.
And
they're holding the premiere because the movie ain't done yet. 2 days before the movie opens in theaters.
Oh my god. Similarly, I'm not crazy about it, but I want to like it. Because Rise of Skywalker, I desperately just wanted to like it.
I know.
And that film was so uniquely bad, like genuinely terrible, that I never had a chance. And the difference is with this film, I don't think it's going to be uniquely bad.
Could still be bad, just plain bad.
Still bad, but because I want to like it so desperately, I don't know. I don't know, right? I'm gonna do my best to walk in with an open mind. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, it's coming next week, so
that's gonna be a very interesting review.
Yeah.
Because people need to understand, I love Spider-Man. I don't know if I've said that before.
You just don't love the MCU Spider-Man.
Well, it's like with Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
When I love these things so much, there's like a certain level of like excellence I want from that storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love Star Wars, but I only really love like 3 of the films. Well, 4 probably.
Okay, let's real quick. I saw some other films. We're still in what we saw this week. Power of the Dog by Jane Campion on Netflix. Starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
John Campion?
No, Jane Campion or Champion. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's spelled Campion. She's a previous Best Director nominee at the Academy Awards, or winner. I'm not sure. No, I think it may be winner. Power of the Dog is kind of a Western and kind of a whole bunch of other things. And maybe you watch it and then maybe we can discuss it more in depth because there are obviously surprises along the way. It was a very excellently crafted film that I don't care about in the least.
I hate those.
Honestly, there are some things about it in terms of like how it's staged and the execution that are actually kind of genuinely surprising, and the craft on display is just, and a lot of people love it. I just can't see myself falling in love with a movie that is what it is and does what it does, but I can't think much about it really after the fact. Like, oh, that was cool. I like that. A little twist here and there. I like how you shot that, but I'm not sure I care ultimately. But good job on the movie.
No, but I hate those films where it's like, wow, this is such a well-made film, and I get why everyone is raving about it, but I don't care. You know what was kind of that film, and I felt so bad, was that. What was it? The Asian family farmers?
Minari.
That was that film for me.
Exactly, yeah.
Where it's like, this is really well made. There's really great performances.
Minari was better, I feel, but than this.
I get why people love it. It's just it's whatever to me, right? Like I saw it, I was like, okay, that's nice, and then I moved. Technically, unbelievably well made, right? And I get why everyone likes it. It's just
it's an excellent film across the board.
A film doesn't connect. Oh my god! The poster child for this for us is fucking Dunkirk.
Well, that's different because with Power of the Dog, that I feel is maybe the poster boy because it's a lot of these movies that are so great but we don't care about are straightforward, like Minari. Dunkirk is not ordinary. Dunkirk was very much experimental on Nolan's part.
That's true.
And very much a Nolan movie.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair to him, although, again, I'm not interested in being fair to that jackass. Again, he endangered people in the middle of a pandemic before the vaccines. And I don't think I'm going to forget that or forgive that, nor anybody should, but people will because he has a cult. To be fair to him, that was, I think, crafted by intent, was for it to be as unorthodox and by extension as off-putting as possible. Because really the point of that movie was an exercise in how much he can do to really make as unconventional of a film as possible.
Yeah. I assume that the Power of the Dog is much more conventional.
Yes.
Storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very much so.
I think it still holds water, the comparison, just in the fact that it's a technically well done, well made film with great performances that
like 1917 by Sam Mendes, also very great, but also couldn't care less.
Yeah, it sucks. Those happen sometimes, and honestly, I can kind of tell when a film is like that.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason I never saw 1917, because it's like I know
there's no point in you watching it because you know how you feel about it. I know, I get it. Yeah. I've been there myself, but I still go in hoping against all hope that even though when I suspect that I'm not going to respond much to something, I know I'm not going to respond. And
sometimes you do get genuinely great surprises.
The Father was one of those surprises earlier this year.
Yes, I thought I was just going to be like it was gonna be one of those where it's like it's a well-made film, good performance, don't care much about it. And then I saw it, I was like, ooh, I love this.
Yeah.
That was great. So, yeah, you never know. Give films a chance, I guess. But yeah, okay. What else do you watch?
The Tick Tick Boom. Andrew Garfield.
Oh, you saw the Tick Tick the Boom?
Yes, Tick Tick the Boom. Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut starring Andrew Garfield, and a very, I would say, low-key, but then also surprise role for Vanessa Hudgens in there as well. I forgot how good she can sing, that's for sure. She's great. This movie is, I thought, very good. And as far as anything with the name Lin-Manuel Miranda attached to it, perhaps to me the one I cared about the most. There's a lot I want to say about the movie, but I think I want to have a longer discussion whenever you see it. I was hoping to do a Tick Tick Boom and West Side Story review, but with time catching up on us, I'm not sure how we can do it. No pun intended. Tick Tick Boom.
Is Tick Tick Boom on Netflix?
It's there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been up for I think ever since Thanksgiving.
Maybe I'll watch it this week.
It's actually, I mean, I thought it was very good though. I responded a lot to the material. You know, this being the real life story of Jonathan Larson, who I had no idea who he was, but is a tragic tale, as a matter of fact. But also, but it's not an overwhelmingly sad movie. It's kind of melancholy though, and I think it definitely speaks to. There's some songs in there that definitely speak to a certain quarter-life crisis some people who may be having, turning 30 pretty soon, and that's definitely on the mind of this film. Andrew Garfield is stellar, though. I think he's phenomenal in everything, honestly. And I did not know he could sing. I did not know he could sing like that. And I'm actually kind of grateful that we have a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical with a song that he didn't write. So thank you for that. And the next one is I saw the original West Side Story from 1961.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were sending me all the racist bits.
Whoa. There was, there's...
To be fair, I since you've seen the movie, first of all, it's Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
It's to literally to a T. Second of all, racism is kind of a part of the story. I think so. It's kind of hard to parse through what at the time was meant to go like, oh, this is racist, this is bad,
right? And
just like, we don't even see this as racist. This is just how things are at the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But it's a classic.
But it's interesting because those things that you spoke to, I have a feeling they're going to take a far more heightened focus on the new one that we're going to see.
What, the racism?
Or I guess the elements that maybe weren't as relevant like that in the new version of it.
I think so, yeah. For sure.
Because it's Spielberg, and, you know, he likes to talk on those
disgusting things. Woke.
Shout out to The Post. I still love you.
Even The Post has one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
But it's great.
When fucking what's her name's walking out the courthouse and all the fucking feminazis are reaching for her.
Like she's Jesus.
Yeah, like Jesus, just trying to touch him. He feels a certain type of way.
I didn't realize I knew a lot of this music already. At least the famous ones, like Somewhere There's a Place for Us, or Tonight, or
That Whistle.
No, that one no. The In America, and then also I Feel Pretty. So a lot of those songs I didn't even know where they were from, but I've heard them somewhere because, you know, they're that big.
The thing with musicals back then, they would just write songs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they would do a movie.
Yeah.
Like fucking Singing in the... Have you ever seen Singing in the Rain?
I've seen a big part of it, not the whole thing through, and I remember watching it and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot.
The movie would just stop and be like,
yeah,
here's a song.
Yeah.
It had fucking nothing to do with
means nothing,
anything.
but here's a song.
Here's a song, yeah. So there's a little bit of that. I think a lot of the music does largely serve the story.
It does, yes. The dancing is great. I love Rita Moreno as Anita. And one of the things that I actually was surprised, I mean, there's a lot of things that surprised me. It's like, whoa, I have to recalibrate for 1961, obviously. So much that they got away with, like so many things. It's just like, wow. But one of the things that actually quite shocked me, this was a good part of the film because of like what it was, that was the intent. But just the horrid way in which, like, because America is like Anita's number, and how it was reinterpreted as she was literally about to be raped. They were literally like the sharks, not the sharks, but the Jets were going to get one of their own, one of the ones, and like put him up against her. It was pretty fucking dark. And I've seen interviews about how that really was so traumatic for Rita Moreno because she was raped before this had happened. And so filming that was just so fucking... So the performance you see on the camera was definitely her.
It came from a real place.
Yeah.
That's... It'll be really interesting to see how much is translated to the new film, I guess. You know, like how...
I feel like it's not even a question at this point. I enjoyed the film, but knowing all I know already, I can't imagine I'm not going to like that better. I'm not... I can't...
It's 1961.
Well, that's the thing. It's not really fair at this point, right? But I feel like because I know Spielberg's sensibilities and I know how you already have that film to work as, your framework, I can definitely see when people say that Spielberg did a lot of things better, probably. And from what I hear, he didn't really base it off of that movie all that much. He was a big fan of the original production on Broadway, not so much the movie. He likes the movie a lot.
Really?
But he was saying in interviews that he actually grew up with the music as young as 10 years old when his parents bought the vinyl for the musical on Broadway, not the movie. And he talks about the fact that I think he made a promise to himself at that time when he was 10 or 11 that he would make this movie one day.
So he's one of those disgusting Broadway kids, musical theater kids.
It's crazy though. It's like he's about to turn 75. He's had one of the most successful, not the most successful career in this industry, and it took him this long to make a musical.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently it was worth the wait.
I'm very curious to see how we're going to feel. I'm hoping to love it. And I think there's a good chance that I am going to. But I guess all of that will remain to be seen and everything. Anyway, shall we get on to the main event?
Yes.
That is Arcane. Now, unfortunately, because it's a TV show, and
I agree.
It's
a
a
TV show.
returning TV show. There is no letterbox description to accompany a synopsis for this, Peter, but I'm sure you can speak from the heart in the absence of such, descriptions about what Arcane is. Arcane, League of Legends, I believe it's called.
Yeah. Arcane. Fuck. It's weird because I don't know. I kind of went into the show blind.
So did I.
And it's just like, oh, okay, here's the show. So, like, to describe it, I've never, because I haven't seen people describe the show. I've just seen people go like, go watch Arcane.
So Arcane is based off the game League of Legends. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And what is that for those who are
shit game?
Is
from
it?
what I hear, never played it. It's not the kind of game I would like. I don't know if you've ever seen like even screen grabs of what the game is.
No.
Very different. when you look at it, you're like, I don't know how they got this story from that, but okay. But it's basically about what's the name of the city?
Hilltop? Not Hilltop. Damn it! No, Piltover.
Piltover. It's a bit of a haves and a haves not situation with the shining city of Piltover, and then the slums.
The Nation of Zon.
Would they want to be the Nation of Zon?
Right. Or the Undercity.
The Undercity that is in the shadow of Piltover. And it's about the central story is about two sisters who were left
orphans
after the people of the Undercity rebelled and tried to take the fight to Piltover and lost horrifically. They're left orphans, and they are forced to, steal in the slums of the Undercity, and one day they decide to get a big score in Piltover itself, and they steal something more valuable than they could have ever imagined, and it sets off a massive chain of events that encompasses a lot of different characters over a rather large period of time. And if we're going to go non-spoilers, that's where I think I would want to leave it at.
Yeah, so clearly, based off, I guess, a well-known video game, this is very much leaning hard into this sci-fi fantasy genre. And you've talked about, I guess your impressions on it before, and I think that's the best way of describing it, because it does hit that sweet spot. The fantasy is in the form of the arcane. The arcane, as in the arcane magic that is a big part of, this world and the history of this world. A lot of which we've yet to see, but we got a glance of. But then, of course, a lot of the show is very much A Tale of Two Cities. It's very much political.
Don't use that word. Don't use that word.
It's very, very political. And that is not an element I was expecting, quite frankly. And I see what you said before, when it's like you don't know at first how all the different storylines are going to intertwine, but when they do, it's like, ooh, okay, this is I see where this is going, and this is nice. Yeah, I thought this was kind of excellent. Honestly, on just about every level. It is without question the single best adaptation of a video game in existence.
Yeah, that's not a competition. It's just not.
And the style of the animation very much does, the more I looked at it, yeah, I guess it does look more along the lines of a video game. It is, I gotta say, I enjoyed this a lot, though there are some things about it that, and I don't know if I, so the animation is kind of breathtaking, especially for the scenery. It is just especially with Piltover and all the skies and all of the, the ships and everything and the people, it's beautiful. I don't know, I guess to me there was a bit of an adjustment growth period with some of the character designs felt a bit too made to look like a video game, which, knowing that it is based off a video game, that pretty much is the point. Some I feel fare better than others.
They're very stylized.
Yes, very much so. But it is kind of visually outstanding.
You might be surprised to know that a lot of the characters, they actually toned down their visual styles from the game.
Did they?
Yes. In the game, they're more... And I agree, a lot of video game characters are just so... It's kind of the same thing with... I kind of feel with anime, it's like, whoa. It's a sensory overload.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think this is the best looking animated show I think I've ever seen. I think it is... The animation is so well... I think it's movie quality. I think it's really good.
I feel it is among the best shows out there. I noticed a lot of people were saying that, this is the best animated show, particularly for people who don't take animation all that seriously. So I definitely had some eyebrows raised at those
You're being an
comments.
animation snob?
Well, no, it's just like, oh, no. But also how they say the best animated show they've seen in a long time.
They don't just say show.
It's one of the best shows, period. That's come around in a long time. So just putting that out there. Is it the single best visually impressive animated show? I mean, maybe. But then again, I don't know if my bias is kind of weighing in on this. I don't know if I would pull the trigger on that, quite frankly.
I think I know what you have in mind, but I want to hear
it's not Clone Wars.
What's competition?
It's not Clone Wars.
Okay, what's the competition?
I mean, I really love the animation of Invincible, though. Like, especially those action sequences.
They're good. I agree with you. I like them. And it's funny because a lot of people find the animation in Invincible kind of ugly, but I think it's really good. I think it's
Harley Quinn.
They're better here. Oh, Harley Quinn's animation is okay. It's not that great. If we're talking about overall show, I'm just talking about
overall.
The
okay, well, yeah.
I'm not talking about overall. Then okay, then we have a conversation. But animation specifically, I mean, this is movie quality. This is closer to me to like Into the Spider-Verse than any other animated show I can think of.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
They do some really cool shit. Like at moments, it just becomes music videos, and I fucking love it.
I don't. That's where it lost me. There were parts of this. This isn't perfect for me. I think you can catch that. I like this a lot, but there were some moments where it's like it wasn't working. When it became a music video, I was like, okay, what are we doing here, guys? Can we
so great
get to the point?
No.
At one point, there was this episode where Echo and Jinx are having this confrontation on the bridge.
That's so good.
And I thought the episode was ending, so I muted it. And I guess I missed the fact that there was still more after the fact, because it felt like it was a 3-minute music video with this annoying ass song that was like, okay, time to mute this.
It's such a great song. Oh, wait, I forgot you don't like good music. Okay, go on.
I don't like certain kinds of music. And some of the music in this show was like pretty annoying. Imagine Dragons, that too was like, it was pretty funny to see Imagine Dragons, I guess, do a cameo in this somewhere.
Everybody wants to be my enemy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get that. That's the vibe of the show, and I think it works. I don't want to hear it.
Oh my god!
I just don't agree on music.
I've spent hours with you in a car with your fucking honky tonky, fucking Western music. I
don't play any country music when you're in a car with me.
Yeah,
so that's factually incorrect.
You have. In fact, one time, I'm pretty sure you and Kyle kept me in a car against my will, so you could drive around.
That was Disney music, and that was him.
No, it happened with country music too.
That was Disney music. It wasn't country music.
It just shows how many times you have done this. Yes.
No.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's not true.
There was so much Shania Twain. Oh my god.
I hate Shania Twain. Kyle made me hate Shania Twain.
He makes you hate everything.
He does.
It's a superpower.
And I guess, like, I don't know if that's the point or whatever. It's weird. Yeah, but that was funny because I was like, oh wait, there's still more episode. When I thought it was ending, so I just like, okay, time to turn this off. In that particular moment. So that's another example of some of the stuff with the show just doesn't all the way work for me. I don't know. Haley Steinfeld is great, period, in anything she does. And I think she's great here also as Vi. But if she's supposed to be the main character, I don't know. I often feel like she's one of the characters I care about the least as the show progressed toward the final episode.
Yeah, maybe I think she maybe has a little bit of that main character syndrome, where there's a lot of side characters that are real cool,
but are more interesting as well.
And are more interesting, and the main character is a little bit,
But
just.
I guess for me, and I don't know if you consider this as fault, but I think you consider this as well. But I think it kind of came to a fault, at least for me, because I kind of like if she is supposed to be the main character of the show, I often forget she's there at by the end. Although that last episode, she has major things to do, especially with her connections with Caitlyn, as well as Jinx, who seemingly is the overall villain of this series.
I would say so, yeah.
At least at this point, or at least at the end of that season. At this point, we're going to get into spoilers, just in case anybody is listening. But yeah, if she is supposed to be the main character, this probably is the show I've liked the most where the main character just isn't grabbing me as much as other shows would. But she's good. It's just that, I mean, I guess for me, what?
I'm just having a flashback to Rebels. Go on.
What flashback to Rebels? Are you now going to retroactively pull in some things that I said about that you're saying, well, because we have very different opinions on Rebels.
I know. We do.
With that being said, Rebels didn't have this many interesting characters as does Arcane. So there is some that are more prominent and then some that are more minor. At least in the context of season 1 is concerned.
I think, just to cut you off real quick, I think what's so great about the show is how it's not that every character is interesting, which I do think every character is interesting. It's that all of them are well-rounded.
Yes.
They're very well-rounded. No one is a twirling mustache villain, and no one is just a happy-go-lucky good guy. All of them, I feel, have depth, which makes them very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess for me, what was surprising early on is, at least with the first 3 episodes are concerned, you'd be forgiven for thinking this would be like, okay. I mean, I thought the way the story was going to go is Vi and Powder and their family with Vander, they're going to spark a rebellion that's going to overthrow the overlords in Piltover, and it's going to be a fair and free society for all. I mean, that's how it screamed like at the very beginning. But then, even by the end of the first 3 episodes, you realize the situation is far, far more complicated than that. Far more complex, even. They even do a good job of making you not just sympathize from the point of view of the people at Piltover, but you even kind of like a lot of the people and are invested in the storylines of the people that are on the higher side of town, shall we say. And so, like, for me, for example, like, it got to a point that by the end of the season, when they're very much on the verge of war, I kind of was... And I guess this is me projecting onto it because I've grown so anti-war in all of my storytelling devices that whenever I catch wind of warmongers, I automatically am repulsed and want them to die. Like Mel's mom, for example, that disgusting piece of crap that never should. If I had my way in Piltover, that trash of a human being or that society would not be allowed in that city. Those warmongers, they would be in chains for all I'm, or executed at this point if I had anything to do about it, considering how vicious and horrible they are. But
I think it's implied they're very powerful.
But that's why.
Yeah.
Very powerful and very wealthy. So we can't obviously touch that. No. But my point is, it got to the point where I myself was, well, escalating war is pretty much everything that Silco wanted, but it also means like this is all just a game that a couple of people are playing on each side of the city, basically, and it's just a reminder of like the actions of a small few crazy people can determine the lives of everybody else, because all-out war will result in a body count that is just unacceptable. And when I saw Jace Talus kind of react the way that he did when he killed a boy, it made me like, thank you for seeing that and retracing and finding a resolution that I would seek, which was peace at all cost. It ended up being that some psycho wacko nut job that should have been murdered a long time ago and never should have been allowed to live ended up fucking it for everybody else. But we'll get to that. My point there is, we start off the show with Vi, and throughout every step of the way, she's very much been gung ho about, you know, starting this war and fighting and her people taking what's theirs and getting some dignity and respect, which I can sympathize with. But what I can't sympathize with, what she's calling for by the end of that season, is for the council to just go ahead and take out Silco. And then they but if they do, that can trigger literally a war, which her own people would be annihilated. And I guess for me, and this is me here, just like just growing frustrated with Vi, where she just seems unconcerned with the people, because even Vander took her off to the side in the beginning of the season, where it's like, you need to be prepared to lose people. And I guess I feel maybe she's prepared to lose too many people. But then again, that's me inserting myself in like this whole situation. But that's kind of, I know I'm jumping to the end here, but that's overall what I'm saying is, the show does a good job of making you care about all the different like sides or points of view here, that I myself became kind of surprisingly on a side that I didn't think I would find myself, because for much of the season, the people at Piltover, much of those counselors are corrupt, incompetent losers that are just there to profiteer off wealth and everything.
I'm so happy those are the only ones that don't get depth. Like, it's explicitly said, these people are morons.
Several times.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's how it is. That's exactly how it is. Like, I think there's a point where, what's her name? The, Mel. She gets, like, a child's toy and gives it to one of the counselors. And it's like, oh, only the greatest minds can solve it. And it's so funny because throughout the season, he's still fucking trying to solve the kid's toy. And there's like multiple year jumps. And he's still fucking with that toy. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's perfect. That's, yeah. I like I said, I agree. I think and it's crazy how even like the rat guard sellout, or the Piltover cop,
the sheriff,
who's
Marcus?
Basically sold out to, and like even he has depth,
right?
And it's
even
like,
you feel bad for him when he dies. Yes. And by the way he goes out, and that in and of itself is something that needs to be said at this moment. The way this show handles death is unparalleled in most things in storytelling. Honestly, it catches you by surprise the way some people go out. Mm-hmm. Like your jaw's on the floor.
Characters die. there's consequences, right? And I think this is the reason why I love this show so much, because it's everything that I've been yelling about for a lot of these mainstream stories, where it's like, I want characters to make difficult decisions and then have there be consequences as a result of those difficult decisions, and then that change them as a character. Like, to me, that's like character writing 101, but because so many of these kinds of stories are told to, I don't know, sell lunchboxes and shit like that, and to have characters go on forever, you can't have that kind of storytelling. You can't have your characters do anything too good or too bad. Well, you can have them do shit that's too good, but not too bad. And you can't have them make difficult decisions or grow too much, because we're looking at the next 30 years, not this story that we're telling right now. And there's just been a stagnation in storytelling, I think, because of it, where it feels like you're not allowed to just put these characters in comfortable situations and make them choose. And I think the character that most fully defines this in the show, where it's like, yes, they're actually doing it, is the one on the council. What's his name?
The young man, Jace,
right? Like
Jace Talus.
He is this wide-eyed, intelligent, good person who he's like, I know I can crack this and I can make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And one compromise after another starts happening, and they're understandable compromises. I think you see it from his point of view, and you go like, yeah, like I guess, you would, okay, we just do this, but because eventually we can have this in the future, and this and that. And then he came in bright-eyed about how he wants to create this technology to help the people of the Undercity. And it ends with him using that technology as a weapon to kill children.
Yeah.
In the Undercity, right? But you understand how he got all the way from A to like fucking Q over here. You understand how he is still the same good-natured person trying to do the right thing, but decision after decision led him to this road. Like, and it's so well done, I think, because I don't hate this character. In fact, I really like this character.
I agree.
Even though he's
even though I personally found myself frustrated by him a lot of the time.
Because, for sure.
And I guess, and I don't know if he reminded you kind of like our friend Julio for this particular reason.
A little bit.
Because he's so wide-eyed and he's so like wants to do good, and he has all the best of intentions, but goddamn, are they so susceptible? And then a woman comes along. But no, it's not that. They are so susceptible to manipulation, and they don't even realize it. Like, a lot of the times, that's why I was questioning what Mel's motives were for most of the show, because I wasn't sure what game she was playing at, because from my perspective,
Mel at first.
Because from my perspective, it felt like she was playing him like a fiddle, and I wasn't sure what her intentions were, unless her claiming the crown for herself. And then it came to the point that's not what it was at all. But for a while, I didn't quite register what it was that she was going after. But she very much was kingmaker and was calling the shots through him.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't even, I think, realize.
No. She definitely got him wrapped around, because she understands the world in a way he never could because of her upbringing, right? And we find that out. Mm-hmm. And him, he's kind of a regular guy. The only reason he's part of this, rich society is because he's smart, and he made them richer. He's really intelligent. He made them richer, yeah. But yeah, he doesn't have that sort of experience, and because of that, he's easily manipulated by Mel. But again, that's another character where you're just like, oh, you piece of shit, Mel, at first, but then you really, there's layers to her.
Yes. I was surprised.
Very
like,
much so.
I was like, man, I misjudged you. I really did. To be fair, though, I really wasn't sure what she was playing at until they were telling you, oh, okay, now I get it.
But I mean, like, by the end, and fuck, I mean, I have no idea what's coming with season 2, if she's even still alive. I think it's kind of implied maybe not. Because she makes this ultimate decision to kind of give in to the wide-eyed idealism of Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Because before she casts her vote, she like takes off
Her ring.
her ring, like her family, and she's like, okay, I'm doing this, right? I'm voting for peace, even though it's not the right move as far as attaining more power. I'm actively choosing to lose power. Because also I think at first she was playing him, but I think she did grow to love Jace.
Yeah.
Like I think there's genuine romance there. Which makes the ending all the more tragic.
I don't think she's dead.
Oh, you don't?
No,
I feel like
a lot of the other ones may be dead, but I think
that's why they brought in the mom.
To replace her?
Shit hits the fan. And then, especially because her daughter dies, because the mom has really not been given much depth. But there is a kernel there.
Well, because she was introduced late in the game.
For sure, right? And kind of as a monster. But there was a kernel there where she says the reason why she sent away Mel was because she made her weak.
Yeah.
Which is
emotionally
like,
weak.
Emotionally, which was she loved her too much, right? Now it's a little bit of like Thanos love, I feel. But
yeah.
It's there. And I think because I feel like this show has been so good about there being consequences.
Yeah.
That I feel like big characters die.
I think the big one, the thing is,
I think
I'm curious.
What's her name's mom dies?
Caitlyn's
mom dies.
Yes.
And I think Mel dies. And I think that feels Jace. That feels Caitlyn. That feels Mel's mom. And that feels everything. Yeah.
Which is pretty sad because of all the counselors I want to see dead, they're the least two, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want her to. I don't want Mel. I don't want any of them
either.
But I don't think. God, now you're making me second guess. I feel like I don't know. I feel what was implied at the end before that laser hits, and we don't actually see it hit. We see it about to hit.
Mm.
So
I mean, it's fucking right there. It breaks through the glass, and the last shot that you see is of Mel turning around, and the last line of the song, "What could have been."
What could have been with peace as always, and then.
But also
some
with
fucking
her
whack job
choosing this new
it.
path, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That is, see, a lot of the politics of the council really have intrigued me throughout all of this, and this society, basically, this Piltover thing. What I was kind of thinking, I think Victor has a big role to play, so I don't think he's dead.
No,
he's a very interesting character. Him being from the Undercity, which that brings into question something. And I'm not sure if the show has ever really addressed this, but at least when it begins, it was my impression that in this classless society, the Undercity people cannot be allowed to move up in high society.
Like a strict caste system?
That's what I thought it was, but then you see Victor there, and he was the assistant to Heimerdinger, who was the High Counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think he is an incredibly rare exception. It's
as was Sky, and Sky was a very minor character, but Sky was the girl that was fawning over him, the research assistant, because there was a flashback to where they're both kids in the Undercity, and even then she took a liking to him.
Yes.
When they were kids. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you, it is a rare exception. I just think that that wasn't really allowed, period. Because I thought that there was a clear distinction from the beginning, but then the more you see of it, the more you realize there's a fine line to it between the Undercity and Piltover. But when you see how the counselors react initially to Jace's proposition of peace, of Silco basically running thing as an independent nation, they go ballistic, almost comically so. With like
great.
with her mom, like with Caitlyn's
rabble.
Getting up and then like throwing a glass of wine out of the way. It was it was hilarious, to say the least. So that's interesting. All of that is interesting in there. But what I also, what did you make? Because one of my favorite characters, I like him purely for personality, but I thought the interesting stuff with him really came at the end, which I think we'll see in season 2, and that is with former counselor Heimerdinger.
Yeah, he's a really interesting one, because I was about to bring him up. I think the reason why he was even able to attain that position coming from the Undercity is because of Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger's he's like, no, like, I love all people. Da 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 da. I'm sure he'd be cool with an Undercity assistant.
Yeah.
To him, he's like, you have a brilliant mind. All right. But he's one of those people who, he's a little bit of a Yoda, where his old age.
Doesn't it remind you a lot like Yoda?
Yeah. It comes with a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, but also a little bit of like, you're missing the forest for the trees.
He's a kind man. He's a kind man, and he values life, and definitely all that he strives to do is to preserve life, and it's all in the best interest of, society remaining an actual thing, where he comes from a time where that was almost where all life was all but extinguished. Mm-hmm. But he's been around too long to the point where he's lost touch with reality.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like, I think there's that great scene where he's like, after he's kicked off the council, he's like, well, I wanted to go to the Undercity to help. And he is just like completely lost, where he's like, oh my God, like, this is how you guys live.
Did no idea. And to be fair, none of the other counselors know either.
But none of the other counselors give a shit.
That's the thing.
I think he gives a shit. It's just he's so out of touch.
Yes.
Right. And there's the great line when because what's his name is dying. Victor. And he asks him, like, you ever think about death? And he's like, only the death of friends. Because he's lived so long and been around so long, he doesn't even think about death it's sort of been normalized to him, and only in sort of like others' death, right? Mm-hmm. You could tell there's just, even though he's a good person, there's this separation between him and like most people that sort of blinds him to this understanding. And again, that's why there's these great moral debates between him and like Victor and Jace, where they're like, humans don't live as long as you. They don't live forever like you old bitch. Like, there are people dying today. There are people that can be helped from our technology today. It's very easy for you to say, like, well, let's just work on it, and maybe in 100 years we'll make it safe enough so that everyone can use. And it's like,
but at the same time, no, go continue.
Yes, no, but it's like, how many people will be left in the dirt and die, and over the course of fucking forever we have to take to perfect it to the point where you think it's safe. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he comes from a time where it's like, apparently magic just nearly fucking destroyed everything.
And what little we see of it used in this season, there's some pretty sus things the Arcane does that are terrifying, to where it's like, I think this Heimerdinger may be onto something, guys. Don't dismiss him entirely.
Yeah. But what's so great is I perfectly understand both sides, and there's genuine merit to what both are saying. It's really good writing and really good character.
Yeah, surprisingly too.
I didn't expect that watching this. People are like, oh, it's really good. I was like, okay, maybe it has some cool action scenes, but I was like, oh fuck, characters? What?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's like he does wheel you in with the charm, but then there are a couple of things early on I realized, oh man, you're not long for this, are you? Because he kept being so against the whole magic thing, and everybody else obviously wants that to advance for their
money.
own. Yeah, they're making money, so it was going to come to a point, and it was honestly kind of devastating to see him just be dismissed like that. And I love how they show every single time the council does a vote like that, how cowardly all of them are, except for like one or two. Like all it took was like for one of them, we're all looking at each other, waiting for one of them to like say to second Jace's motion to dismiss Heimerdinger, and that was pretty sad. Although I'm not sure how sad Heimerdinger should be because he avoided that mishap at the end of the season. Yeah. So it's like, thank you.
You got out clean.
I dodged a bullet there, guys. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. But him going into the Undercity and then also unexpectedly forming a partner, but coming across Echo of all people, and where that's going to lead, that's very interesting.
Like if you said like from the first episode, like, or the first two, like this character is going to end up sort of teaming up with this one. Yeah. How? What the fuck? Like, what's going on? But it perfectly weaves those two characters to eventually meet. That's why the first couple of episodes, it's like we're introducing a lot of characters. Like, are we going somewhere with this? But you do go somewhere, and it's great. Yeah. So talking about the main characters, if you will, Vi. I like Vi. I like Vi a lot. Yeah. I will say I wouldn't say she's as boring as you might feel.
I'm not completely bored.
I know. I know. Remember, keep it at a 6. But a lot of her character is defined by her relationship with others, right? So like,
yes,
a lot of what's interesting about her is her relationship with her sister. A lot of what's interesting about her is her relationship with what's her name? Sharpshooter.
Caitlin.
Her little lesbian romance going on there, right? Like, that's interesting. I like that.
What is it with genre storytelling and lesbians now?
Mm-hmm. It sells. I don't know what to tell you, man. The fan art is...
Yeah, but am I a little bit annoyed at this point that when it's the big when you have like the big LGBT storyline, it's always lesbians, and it's not like,
you know, it's because
but it's front and center too. But
I don't know. I don't know if this is PC to say, but lesbians are by far more accepted than like gay men.
They are. No, that's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. That's why I feel like when you see LGBTQ plus representation in a lot of these genre shows, it's far more often than not 2 women and not 2 men. I actually saw a video the other day by Council of Geeks, which is this gender fluid personality that went into this topic at length. I'll share it with you. But it was a very interesting discussion of the fact that whenever you do see 2 men, they are relegated to the sidelines. And I don't know, I guess because they did seem like an unlikely pairing. Mm-hmm. When you said, because you teased it was very gay. And the thing with Caitlin and Vi doesn't come until like halfway through to the end of season 1. And it ended up being just a friendship, but I thought it was going to go in this direction because of what you were teasing. I thought it was going to be Jason Victor, because I was feeling a closeness between those two.
They are very close.
They are very close, like unusually too. And I was like, I wonder if this is what. And then nope, that wasn't what it was. So there's that.
Do you want to know why gay men couples are less popular than women couples in media?
Aside from homophobia?
but both are gay, right? So
That's
why
true.
are people more homophobic than the other? It's because, even bigots, and this is my point of view, I guess. I think even bigots will look at like lesbians and go like, I don't agree with it, but that's hot, right? And then you have people that are
Oh my God.
yeah, I'm being 100% honest. And then you have non-bigoted people who are like, yeah, gay people are cool. So that I think people that are homophobic, which are usually like straight men, let's be real,
Who oftentimes deep down may not be so straight.
yep, well, it's the most vocal ones, right?
Right. Yeah.
If you're a casual homophobe, you're probably just a homophobe. But if you're screaming at the top of your lungs on every street corner every day, you're probably repressing some shit. But I think it really is because people that are homophobic are less, and this is the way they feel, not me. People that are homophobic are less disgusted by lesbians than they are gay men. I honestly think that's what it is. That's why I'm with you. I want much more like gay men relationships in media.
Maybe that's why maybe that's why the LGBTQ plus community reacted so strongly to Luca, even though it's not really like a gay story. But the fact that
it's crumbs. They're picking up crumbs.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, have you ever seen Bruno? I know. The name's coming back.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah,
that disgusting.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
I never saw it. I know. I remember seeing trailers of it a long ass time ago.
Very gay. Okay, I'm gonna spoil the third act because even if I spoil it, watching it is still just as funny.
Oh my God.
What happens is he decides that he's straight now. He's fought with his gay boyfriend, and he's straight, and he's at this. And this is the real part, right? Like this is because you know how he's in real scenarios.
This is Sacha Baron Cohen's MO.
Sacha Baron Cohen, yeah. So he's at like this deep in the South, like cage match.
Oh my God.
Place. And he's like the presenter, right? And he's like, because he's like, I'm straight now. So that's what he's doing. He's being the presenter. And they set it up that his gay boyfriend, like, basically confronts him in the ring. And they start out fighting, and they eventually start making out and like having sex in the middle of the ring. And again, this is like a deep red, like homophobia central place.
And this is around the time Obama was first in office. This is 2009, 2010 territory we're talking about here.
Yes. And it's fucking hilarious. You see the way the audience starts to realize what's happening. The crowd literally like runs because it's like a cage, right? They're throwing chairs at it. Like I think I remember hearing Sacha Baron Cohen talk about filming this and how there was, I think they had like an underground hatch and like a tunnel to escape out of because if not, they would have been like murdered. Like that's how like you should watch it just for that.
Anything so Sacha Baron Cohen does is great because he exposes shit like this.
Oh my God. But yeah. more gay gay men representation. I think that's also why people wanted Stucky and shit like that so bad.
Yeah.
But let's get to the real main character of this show. The one that everyone loves except for you.
Silco?
Jinx. You know this is like a fan fucking favorite character.
I took some time yesterday to go back and watch the season again. Because there were actually some lingering questions about, because I wasn't sure the first time what exactly the hex tech was and what it was being used for. I don't know how I missed that, but it's because they've upgraded their city and there's this revolutionary new method of transportation now through the hex tech that they've invented. Jinx. I guess my frustration with this character is just at a principle. The idea that of so many brilliant minds that share the screen in this entire series, and the fact that Jinx was allowed to remain living throughout the entirety of the season was an unfortunate mistake on the part of everybody who had any kind of knowledge about her.
You don't have
most particularly
Silco. Oh my god. You did no sympathy?
Part of
poor girl.
Something about her wasn't right when she went
right.
Something about her wasn't right when she went throwing bombs in episode 3 and she led to the deaths. Albeit it was an accident.
Helping.
She thought she did not help.
Clearly, but still.
She fucked everything.
I can imagine myself making the same decision.
I did feel bad for Powder, but Powder is dead. This is something else. This is something that whatever took its place, this is not Powder. This is something completely like unnatural like she is the singular reason for why now there will be all-out war and people will die on both sides. And I find that repulsive. Now, these are my feelings that I'm projecting onto this, okay? And so out of principle, I'm just annoyed that every time it is the loudest and flat-out nutcases that end up winning, and all that they achieve is just this ensued chaos. And it kind of reminded me too much of real life, where all the crazies just dominate the conversation, and then here we are. It triggered something in me. It's like... Anyway, but she's a great character. And the second time I watched the series, I was far more appreciative of what her role in the series was and what, honestly, the tragedy behind her. I mean, dude, just the fact that she was talking to voices, the fact that she kept like dolls of the brothers that whose deaths that she led to. She kept talking to voices, and she kept fucking things up left and right. Also, she's seemingly kind of invincible too. Like, she just walks in and out of every place, and it's like, you're telling me nobody's able to stop her? Like, that bitch crossed several lines. Her, like, stalking and kidnapping Caitlyn as she's getting out of the shower made my skin crawl.
Well, she's also pretty clearly the villain, right?
Yes.
Like, she's described... She's... a weird cross-section of the Joker and Harley Quinn. Right,
as if they were merged together.
Yes. With the tragic backstory and all. I really like her. I think she's great. I 100% get why she's a fan favorite. And she is scary. Like, she is fucked up, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe I'm much more sympathetic to a lot of what she went through. But she is fucking crazy. Like at the end where she's basically pulling a fucking Alice in Wonderland tea time with all those people, and they make you think for a second that she like cooked up Caitlyn.
I was like, No, she didn't. That bitch didn't do that. But then, of course, there was a play on him. She was like, "Sheesh, I'm not that crazy."
Yeah, basically looking at the audience like, really? You thought like, I'm not that crazy. But it's like, I don't know. You might be now. Like, I don't.
No, I agree. She is a tragic figure. It's just that I'm just prone to dislike characters that constantly fuck everything up. I mean, and maybe that's being too harsh because she was a very effective enforcer, on Silco's part, but also not really because at the end of the day, Silco basically got everything he wanted.
He didn't.
He did. He did.
Well, he did, but he threw it away.
Agreed.
Yeah.
If he would have agreed to hand her over, but I don't even know. I was really curious to see how that would play out. He said after, he was shot by Jinx that he wasn't going to do it. And I think that's true because he was having a hard time pulling it together because he was there at with Vander's statue and everything. But we don't get to actually see that play out because she's captured. He's captured by Jinx and tied up too. I think she was under the impression that he had already made his choice and he was going to sell her out.
I actually think she misunderstood what he said. I think from what he's saying, you can imply that he wasn't going to, because he's kind of
yes, no, because he was saying, "What do I lose but problems?"
Mm-hmm. But he also says like, "I get it now, Vander. Like there's nothing more
undoing than a
daughter," and because when he felt that Vander betrayed him, it was because of it was
children?
like right after that battle,
right?
And that's when Vander really took them in and started to raise them, and I think that's what changed his worldview a little bit. And I'm sure losing that battle so terribly and taking in these orphans that changed him, and that's what sort of caused him to betray Silco. And now Silco's in the same position where it's like he can have it all, but he has to betray his daughter. And yeah, he's kind of telling Vander, like, I get it now.
Their relationship is something special and something that I didn't quite foresee. When I first saw her then powder be taken in by Silco, you're like, oh no, this ain't gonna go good, and it doesn't for the most part in terms of how she ends up, because she basically has no she loves to kill based on everything that we see. Like, she has no remorse over it whatsoever. What took me by surprise was that relationship. I was expecting something along the lines of an abusive relationship like Joker and Harley Quinn. Mm-hmm. And that he wasn't going to care for her at all, and that she was just a tool to him. I was surprised entirely. However warped it is, it was a genuine father-daughter relationship, and they both cared a lot for each other.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that.
This is something this show does so many times and so well, where it's like you think you understand the dynamics, and then they throw you a curve where it's like, there's more to this than you think. There's more to these characters than you think. And you're like, fuck, like I thought I knew how I felt about them, but now there's new layers of gray here that has me rethinking how I feel about these characters and everything that's going on. And that happens several times. The biggest, of course, is episode 3 that I think just, no pun intended, blows everything up. Changes the story completely.
Yeah, that was surprising. All of that was honestly surprising. But it's like I also really do like the villains here. I especially love Silco. He's just he has a classic villain look. I love that eye. I love the suit. I love the voice. I love the menace behind him, and I love when one of the two of my favorite scenes with him And when he's trying to reassert his dominance over his underlings, first is when he and Civica, who by the way is a great right hand, man,
pun
Civica, literally pun intended, Civica or Civica, however you pronounce the name, they march into the meeting, and he basically starts choking them with gas, and they all kind of like fall to their knees. Or the far more impressive one was when, and I was a little bit like, they're not going to do this, are they? Was when Civica walks in two of them, and you feel like, oh, this is the part where he gets betrayed, and they're going to kill him. And then I love how they play that when Civica pulls out her sword arm, and they really do. The camera work is pretty great too here, where they make you think, oh,
She's
no.
She's going to stab him in the back.
But she doesn't. She stabs the other guy in the front.
Yep. Perfect.
I love that scene.
It's great. And it's perfect because he even asks, like, would you have done it? And she's like, not for an idiot like him.
That was very honest.
Implying, like, she's not above betraying, because she betrayed Vander. But this guy's a fucking idiot. And like, I'm not an idiot. If I throw my weight behind someone, it's because...
And she warns, saying there will be more.
Yeah. And basically telling him, you're lucky this time this one was an idiot. Get it together, basically. No, she's and another aspect about her that's so great, we haven't really even touched on that much, is the action.
That's true. That is especially just on another level altogether in terms of animation. Mm-hmm. I mean, just period. I mean, again, look, animation generally speaking, as far as action is concerned, is superior to live action because of how much more you can do. But even with that being acknowledged, the level that we're working with here with Arcane, whew, do they blow it out of the water and then some. They go all in for it. They go all in with these sequences that I think is, like, what I think the comparison you made before is pretty apt, where the visuals all come together, where it's like, it's so in your face and it's so confident and it's so pulling it off so much that it does remind you of the first time you saw Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Because it's so fluid. And what I like is a lot of the camera angles and the action shots, a lot of it feels like it's shot similar to live action. Right? Because there's great camera angles. Like there's one where oh shit, like when she's fighting Vi, and like one of them like picks them up on the side and like fucking slams them, and you have a shot of the camera on the side like turn with them and like gets slammed. Like there's a real visceralness to the way it's shot, even though it's technically not like quote unquote shot. But it doesn't feel like weightless, right? Because I feel like a lot of animation, like the camera's just like, woo, like it's just floating everywhere. Well, it's shot very well, similar to they block it similar to live action, but the action itself is over the top in an animated way.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it very unique. You have this over the top cartoon like action, but it's shot in a very visceral way that gives it that much more weight.
Yeah.
Like when they fucking hit each other, you feel that shit.
Yeah.
It's
Vi gets
really
stabbed
good.
At some point too by Civica in their first round.
Yes. Cause Civica's like, haha, I got a fucking
sword for a hand.
Sword arm with I forgot what that purple goo is called. Shimmer, that's right, Shimmer.
That's that's another layer. There's so many layers here about the world. I mean, I'm thinking of the locations, but then also the mythology here, because you have, in some ways, science is such a big part of it, but science cultivating the magic of some. The Shimmer is seemingly, I guess, like, you could think that the Shimmer was this creation by science and science alone, but it really isn't, though. It's kind of the evolution of a mutation, if I'm not mistaken,
creates
right?
very fantastical.
But is the shimmer
results.
like man-made entirely, or does it have origins in the arcane as well?
I think it's like
Because there is a surprising link between Silco and Victor, and that is they both know the same doctor.
And that's crazy because that doctor from like the first 3 episodes, you think that's just a throwaway character.
I thought he died.
Yeah, he's dead. He's gone. He was just there to be like, this is the guy that made the shimmer, right? Like, that's it. Evil doctor guy in evil bad guy's lair. Cool. But even he comes back in a very interesting way. And I think you're going to see more of him in the future. I think if there is magic to the shimmer, it's not, it's a different kind of magic. I think they want to, I think shimmer is very much not technology, but like man-made, like Frankenstein shit.
Whereas you have the hex tech, which is technology, but that's harnessing the power of magic, which is the arcane here.
Yeah, I would say it's more like that.
And we see those clash together, I think, for the first time in the last episode.
Yeah, I was waiting because it's like very clearly you have the Undercity, and their power lies in the shimmer.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's...
Which is also a drug, apparently.
Yeah, of course. But then you have Arcane in sort of the upper city, Piltover, utilizing magic and through technology. And I was like, ooh, like when are they going to finally clash? And it's a great action scene with Jace and Vi versus these shimmer abominations, and it's again really well done. But then it also shows you the consequences at the very end there. And even Vi's like, she's like, quit being a pussy. Like this is she's a little bit too gung ho with like, we got to go to war. A little bit too much that way. But also, I think if you just follow her storyline, you get it. Like, it makes sense, right? Like, you don't see everything that was going on with, what's his name? The one-eyed guy.
The one-eyed Silco?
Silco. You don't see all the layers to Silco. She just sees him as the big bad guy that killed her dad.
Right.
Or father figure. She doesn't see Piltover in the way Jace or Victor or any of them else see it. She just sees them as the people that took her parents and killed them. So, and imprisoned her for years. So you understand where she's coming. At least I do. I think so. But because we're the viewer, we also see the other side. So we're like, I want to talk about the music, even though you already talked about it. I like the music.
You don't say.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. We've switched roles here. But no, I think music is utilized several. Like, I'm sorry, that fight with Echo and fucking Jinx.
Artistically beautiful.
The song is great. The song is fucking awesome.
I muted it twice.
How? Oh my god, it's so good. But then also, I just think it's really utilized so good. There's a really emotional moment when she pulls Jinx pulls the sort of the gas thing,
right? Oh,
and there's that song like blaring, like, and everything's culminating with all these characters. The music works so well. It's such an emotional sledgehammer to that scene. And you know what? I like Imagine Dragons. The theme grew on me, and I like it. My enemy, I think it works.
I spoke before about the death that you see here, and I mean, I was amazed when I saw, I believe it was, I forget the names, but it's the two brothers in the first 3 episodes. In episode 3, one is impaled and they're both crushed by debris. what's her name? Sky, who is the assistant to Victor, and she loves him, and she walks in on him with the Arcane. Oh, and she kind of gets 9/11, where she turns to dust. I mean, what? But she's
Go on. That's a crazy. Okay, go ahead.
Well, because
no, I get it.
Okay, I don't think it's that much of a stretch because
yes,
Spielberg used that in War of the Worlds to evoke 9/11.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
that's what I mean. But that's what happened because she gets obliterated into dust, and I was like, "What?" That poor girl. She wrong place at the wrong time if there ever was.
Yes, and it's like her whole thing is like she kind of had a crush on Victor.
Yeah,
and it's like, ooh, like this is kind of cute, and then it's like boom, right? And I like that affected Victor.
Yes,
because
before he didn't really care about her. I mean, he didn't really pay attention to her.
Well, the guy's dying, and he's just trying to find a way to live, right? So it's, I get it. But again, that was a moment of like, fuck, like, what have I wrought with my meddling into this? No, that I really, again, this is what I love. Like, decisions and actions have consequences that push the characters in interesting ways, right?
Right.
Victor, his meddling, he was warned so many times, like, this shit is dangerous. It will fuck you up. It could fuck everyone up. And then there is consequences to that. He
indirectly leads to the death of Sky.
Yeah. Right? And the same with Powder. Like, even a kid just wanting to help and messing up had massive ramifications. Like, insane ramifications. But they don't shy away from that. Like, yeah, no, like, sometimes you fuck up, and the fuck up can be huge. I think that's so great, and I want to see that continue into the next season.
What do you think? Because it's never really revealed, I guess. Because we see Victor with a new, I guess, blue leg of some sort. Like, what was he able to do with the Arcane? Because obviously what you see here, his blood is mixed with the Arcane, and the Arcane is calling to him. What happened there? Did he unlock a new ability that he just hasn't shown off, that we haven't been shown just yet?
Some of the magic and Arcane stuff is a little... It's fast and loose, right? Because it's like science as magic. Like, how... It's hard to get detailed into that because it's like, what the fuck does that mean, right? But from what I understand, Victor, that little blue arcane ball,
yes,
is kind of like the magic equivalent of AI intelligence. Because he says it can like think and improve upon itself, right? And then he gives it some of its blood, which in turn it's morphine because of it. What it does, so I think that's gonna play into it eventually. This whole overall story, what it does to Victor specifically, give him power. How? I don't know.
Well, doesn't he already have a power though? Because of how wasn't there a scene where he was running?
That's what I mean. It's making him better. I guess that's what I mean.
So I'm wondering if that's going to play a role in the immediate aftermath of maybe saving Jace and himself in that explosion.
Maybe.
Because, sure. Like, I mean, you're going to make the argument that Mel dies. Well, Jason and Victor are next to her, so how does she die and they survive?
He's on the other side of the table. I mean, that's what they did with Jinx. They used the shimmer to save her, right?
That's true, yeah.
And
they turned up the crazy.
Not only to turn up the crazy, I think it kind of showed that she's more powerful. Like she kind of like she was moving all quick because of the shimmer, or quicker than she usually does.
That's crazy. There's a lot at play here. And honestly, when you think about all the things we just discussed, all the different concepts, the characters, just the sheer volume of things here, it's pretty amazing how great it still is with only 9 episodes.
It's 9 episodes, right? Like I think they're like 40-minute episodes, you would say?
Yes, between 30 and 40 minutes.
This is what I mean. Like this, there's so much going on, and it's efficient. It's efficient in its storytelling. Like, there's no fat, right? Like once something is sort of explored, it's like, okay, we did it, right? We don't need to lollygag. We don't need to sit idly here. You know, it's like, no, we did it. Now we're doing the next thing. I guess what I'm trying to say, it's really well paced. Yeah, I don't know how much more I could say about the show other than I really loved it.
We're not alone. We're not alone in this. I mean, Parrot Analytics said it was the most in-demand show, the most new in-demand show in the world. According to Netflix's own numbers, it was the top show in the world too when it debuted. Like, it definitely has caught the world by storm in a way that's gotten attention. Like, they straight out announced that season 2, and I can't imagine it's going to end there. This is gonna be a mainstay in pop culture, and I'm glad that it's getting the recognition that it is. And just again, in talking with you about this, it's like I'm honestly kind of amazed how good it is, because we're just like jumping back and bouncing back and forth to all these different aspects of the show. It's so incredible.
And I saw Double Toasted. I saw Corey say this, but I said this to you before their review even came out, was, man, do I just want a lot of these big franchises to learn from this.
Fat chance.
Like Marvel or Star Wars or any of the big ones. Like, to me, there's no reason why we can't have a Star Wars show like this. And there's been good Star Wars shows, but like, to me, this is like different. It's on another level. Especially like even the animation. It's so fucking. And I'm not saying the animation hasn't been great in a lot of Star Wars shows, but it's just, I feel like, fuck, this one just really goes for it. Like, again, it's movie quality, and not just movie quality, it's unique in how well it is. And that's why it reminds me a lot of Into the Spider-Verse, because after I saw Into the Spider-Verse, it's so much of it's like, fuck, was this so hard, everyone?
I think the answer to that question is yes, it is.
It is hard, yeah. It
is. And so I think like the level of excellence that can be achieved through an Arcane or Into the Spider-Verse is so far and few in between. But I think that makes us appreciate the excellence of both of those properties, even more so, that they were able to pull it off. But yeah, they had certain liberties that they were able to do that a lot of franchises just don't. And a lot of them, quite frankly, are either led by creators who fundamentally misunderstand certain aspects of storytelling and character 101, and or take probably more direction from fandoms than they would even want to admit.
Yeah. Because guess what? I guess League of Legends for sure has like a fandom, but there was never like a TV show. There was never. These characters were never. It was just a game. These characters were never explored in any way, really. And that's another thing. I am sure that there is so many Easter eggs and shit to the game within the show. It never overtook the storytelling. Not once.
No.
There was never a point where it like showed a shot of like a fucking door. It's like, woo, and it's obviously meant to mean something, you know.
There's no cameos that are gonna do the heavy lifting, like with Hawkeye, where we're gonna get Yelena Belova or Wilson Fisk, or even today there was an article about the Book of Boba Fett and how cameos. We got cameos, guys.
There's cameos, hey. But that's what I mean, right? Like this is all I want. Just good storytelling.
This is all you want for Christmas?
I guess I got it. But this is what I want from, like...
Tell Mariah Carey she doesn't have to come down the chimney then.
She does not. Not my chimney. Hell no. Stay away, Mariah. Like, I feel like so many of the criticisms I have when looking at something like the Marvels and the Star Wars and sometimes the DC, although I think the DC has been doing better. We recently saw Ghostbusters, right? And even though I enjoyed it, it's like, why are we spending time looking at a candy bar wrapper?
Yeah, that was the rare exception. Like, again, like on paper, you should hate that movie. You just don't. That's kind of maddening because it's everything you hate. It's everything I hate. That's the embodiment, honestly.
And I hate
Afterlife.
The elements of it, but underneath, there's like a fine film, and it's really unfortunate that it's just weighed down by everything I hate. I never said I loved the movie, but there's good elements to it. But yeah, it's like why are we spending time looking at a Twinkie? Like, and they never do that in Arcane. Right. And I'm sure there's shit in the background. I'm sure there's certain characters or interactions or lines that may be traced to the game somehow, but it never feels awkward. It never feels weird. It just feels like a story to me. And I love that.
Yeah. 2021 has been an amazing year for storytelling. I think it's been equally impressive in the realm of television as it has been for film, I will say. And I'm very much looking forward to talking about this with you when we get a chance to watch all the things we want to do and discuss what were our favorite shows and films of the year. Because, quite frankly, I feel like my movie list, the question is which ones ultimately are going to end up appearing on the latter half, because I feel like I have a solid 7 already as far as like the top 10 is concerned. And I've seen more movies this year, obviously, than 2020, but that wasn't hard apparently because there was nothing in 2020. But
we're still doing 2020.
I didn't say we weren't. I wanted to do 2020 because there were movies that I loved in 2020, but we can't get to it because some of us are holding it up. And even though some of us have been called out repeatedly, I'm not talking about you, by the way.
I know.
We
all know who we're talking about.
They continue to hold it up, so I can't really do much about that. But what I was going to say is, while I know at this moment what my top 5 movies of the year so far, and in what order, most importantly, what is going to be a bitch to figure out are the order of the favorite TV shows of the year. Because there have been so many good ones. I'm talking about this, Arcane. Mm-hmm. Talking about Invincible.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Midnight Mass.
Oof.
I'm talking about WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about, for me, Ted Lasso. So already it's like 5 shows, and I'm like, how do I pick the order? Do I arrange the order of these things? Because I love all of those things, and I think I'd still say, emotionally, I feel Invincible was a bit more resonant for me.
It fucking takes your heart and twists it. That show. No, I can see that for sure.
So it's going to be an interesting list whenever that pans out. Whenever we do that. But I think whatever the medium, we've been, and that's nothing, of course, of Midnight Mass. Jesus, go watch that. We've been blessed with so much great content this year. It's not even funny.
Yes. Wonderful art. A lot. Genuinely a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have plenty of it to go. later on in this month and in this year. So for those of you who want to see our top 10 of 2020, at Kyle Lira at Gmail. No, you can find Kyle Lira on Instagram. What's his Twitter? I'll find it right now. That way people can
tweet him.
Tweet him so we can get this show on the road already, because it's been far too long. At Kyle_Lira.
Yes. Lira.
So we can finally get our top 10 of 2020, because I want to talk about Another Round and The Father and My Octopus Teacher and Mank and so many other wonderful movies of that year, but we can't get to it because we're being repeatedly held up. So will it be continue to be held up? Well, stay tuned and find out more next time. Stay under our spotlight and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Peter, for being here. Bye-bye.